Hello everybody, how are you doing? Welcome back to Man City Unplugged, your very own Man City fan channel. Destiny sometimes has things in store for you that you just do not expect. Just I was just thinking yesterday morning that the international break is going on so smoothly for us. Kevin De Bruyne on the score sheet a week back, and Haaland on the score sheet for Norway a week back. Gundogan getting a penalty yesterday. Bernardo Silva having a good outing. So the things were going on very well. Our players were getting good game time. They were getting that exposure, but they were not being overly strained and things like that. It was just a smooth sailing boat. And then yesterday the tempest hit, the storm hit, and John Stones was injured. He pulled an hamstring, and it was quite unexpected actually. I just didn't imagine that a player would be hurt this. It could happen, but I was just praying that none of our players should be hurt like all of our fans. But John Stones, in a way, I do not wish injury on anyone and things, but in a way, I think John Stones again. This is. Uh, this has been a kind of repetitive, that's the word I will use here, kind of a repetitive pattern in his career. John Stones, uh, whenever it seemed as though that John Stones was getting to grips in his career, it's suddenly always an injury has occurred and it has sort of pushed him back a few steps, and suddenly, and John Stones is not a kind of player who, like for example, you take an Ake, he was injured and he came back and it seemed as if he was not injured at all. De Bruyne is like this, is injured, and when he comes back, it seems that he was not out at all. Some players have this knack, and then other players, John Stones, for example, they take Ruben Diaz also, for example, they take a little bit of time to come back and feel that way and feel their way into the game. They want those juices running, the confidence running. They take 2, 3, 4 games and then they just get to the top level. And John Stones is that kind of a player, and it's not just not angry that he's injured. He was injured yesterday. It happens, injuries happen. But what I'm angry about is, it's the repetitive patterns, like I said before, in John Stones' career. Whenever he's tried to get on to that top level, he suffered an injury. 2019-20 season or something like that, I think. One of those seasons, he was getting in very good form. He was looking in good form in the first part of the season, but then in the second part of the season, injury. He picked up an injury in that 2019-20 season, I think in November, and then he was, and John Stones was not the same player for the rest of the season once he returned. So, the biggest problem here is, not just talking from a John Stones point of view, it's unfortunate that always in his career is, people talk why John Stones has not achieved the heights. He's 27 right now, and looking at the qualities with John Stones, still it's young for a central defender, 27. Still, there are people like Jerome Boateng, for example, who in a much later age, in 30s, for example, have gone on to uh, become very good defenders. But with John Stones, the potential was always there. The only thing I thought is these injuries putting him back time and again, time and again. If it's once, twice, then it's fine. But if it occurs regularly, see, it starts to play on your mind. You will not be the same player again, because it can be somewhat like a scar, on your mind. So I guess it will be a bit difficult for John Stones, not getting out of injury, but a bit difficult for John Stones to get over that psychological block we have seen throughout his career at City, that he's been suffering this. But coming back to the wholesome issue here, how will John Stones' injury affect City? I mean, it will not affect City at centre back. I'm sure Akanji is there. Then you have Ake, who's looking in imperious form. Ruben Diaz, Laporte. In the first place, John Stones was not in contention for a starting berth. He was never in contention for a starting berth, especially after the first 2, 3 games of the season at centre back position. But the one position I'm concerned about is, no, it's not the right back position. But because Cancelo can play there, in case you want to cover for Walker, you have Rico Lewis, maybe you could deputize. But central midfield position is the one position that I'm very very concerned about. Calvin Phillips might not return before the World Cup ends, right? So Calvin Phillips is almost out till December. You could say he needs a surgery on his forearm, if I'm not wrong, or something like that. So Phillips is out. So John Stones was actually being touted as Rodri backup. If you observe what Pep was doing with John Stones in that Wolves game, Pep was so excited, he was so enthusiastic, giving John Stones the directions in that Wolves game on how to better understand that CDM position. See, because John Stones is excellent ball playing ability, he can wriggle out of dangerous situations. He's a great dribbler of the ball. He has a good positional sense, and his crossing and his sorry, not his crossing, but his passing is just out of this world. He can break defensive lines from deep. So I think Pep actually sees John Stones in that ilk of a David Alaba, in that ilk of a Philip Lam, in that ilk of a Joshua Kimmich, and things that maybe John Stones, like the three of them I mentioned before, John Stones could unlock his potential in the CDM position and not in the centre back position. That was one of Pep's thinking, and also I think Pep would have thought about Rodri and the necessity to manage the game time of Rodri, because this October is going to be something which we have never seen before. It's going to be relentless. The fixtures are just going to come by, and this is just and the dangerous thing is, the frightening thing is, this October is just going to be a glimpse of what we will come to expect once the season resumes from December. So, how will Pep manage minutes? Rodri cannot play the entire October. Gundogan is not the same player. You could get by playing Gundogan in the CDM position, but not the best of choice, especially when Gundogan is playing very well in a forward role, linking up with Haaland. So, not Gundogan. So, I think Pep saw John Stones as the perfect backup to Rodri, and maybe even when Calvin Phillips returns, John Stones could suddenly be fighting for three spots: right back position, the central midfield position, and centre back position. So John Stones could also get more time. The concern with Pep is that he is feeling that he needs to utilize the talent of John Stones better. Pep is kind of feeling that he's doing a almost. I know it's a big word, but almost Pep is feeling that he's doing a disservice to John Stones by putting him on the bench, because Pep thinks that maybe at centre back Stones has a few mistakes, but at CDM you could utilize those passing talents of Stones better. You could utilize that ability of John Stones to break a press. I would back John Stones 99 out of 100 times to break through presses, to carry the ball through the midfield, which might not be the primary duty of a centre back or even a right back. So I think Pep had John Stones lined up for this role, and we need to see what is the extent of the injury. It may just be that he might be missing the derby or something like that. None of the reports that have come out have stated the length of the injury. So for me, the impact is on the backup to Rodri, because Rodri cannot play the entire October, or maybe you could be looking at a Sergio Gomez as a backup to Rodri, but we do not essentially have a backup to Rodri in the team. That is. So I actually think that John Stones, if he misses the entire October, then it will be very interesting to see how Pep deals with the situations. So in the CDM position, that is where I think we will have concern with John Stones. I mean, like people are telling, I saw a few Twitter tweets that fans were telling that Stones out of the derby. I don't even think Stones was starting the derby in the first place, because United's front three will be the same front three they used against Arsenal: Anthony, Jadon Sancho, and Rashford, right? It's a front three full of pace. It's a front three full of counter-attacking intent. So you can't play John Stones and at right back with that front three. Walker needs to play. That recovery pace needs to be really used in the derby. So I didn't think Stones was starting the derby in the first place. But my concern is about the long term thing in October. See, this seems a cliche in itself. I'm just telling October, and I'm telling you long term thing in October, but that's how the season is. We are playing every 2-3 days in October. So how will Pep manage the schedule? That is the thing that is concerning me. Not the derby or not the next 2-3 matches. That is fine. But if Stones is out for beyond a week or two, if he misses the next 4 or 5 matches, that is where the concern starts. That is where the workload with of Rodri starts. The concern of that. the need to manage the workload of Rodri, not for the derby. So and also my other concern was about the holistic impact it would have on John Stones. That whenever he has looked extremely supremely confident against Wolves. He was essentially helping us break the press of Wolves in the second half. He was allowing us to carry the ball, get up the field along with Grealish in that second half when we were under the cost for sort of 15-20 minutes against Wolves. So Stones was suddenly looking confident, and I feel for John Stones here more than anything. When John Stones made that incredible career defining comeback in that 2019-20 season, the season before everyone thought he would be sold to Newcastle, I was like, wow, what a personality this guy should be having, John Stones, to make a comeback when everyone thought his City career was over. I think it's a strong personality that is keeping his career rolling, because every time he seems to go get on a purple patch, he suffers an injury. It's almost like a Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson, you see him supremely talented striker, but every time he gets injured, and for a defender, it's even more worse, because you need to get into those tackles, and like a striker, you need to be physically more involved in the game, right? So injuries can really scar you much, much more than any than a player in any other position on the football pitch. So John Stones, for me personally as well, I wish that he comes out of this injury faster and stronger. And I just hope this doesn't derail him, because so much of talent, it should not be wasted. Like we have seen in the past, we have discussed on this channel in the past as well, that football is full of stories. Football is full of graveyards of talent unfulfilled. Could be because of lack of commitment, could be because of injuries, lot of factors, but football is full of stories of talent going unfulfilled, talent going unrealized, and that would be a sad, sad thing to happen in the case of John Stones. So personally as well, I've felt that I felt bad due to this fact that Stones is having to do it time and again in his career. He is having to recover from one injury after the other, especially when it feels like it's almost like you've built a built a sand castle, and by the time you come to the top of it, the entire castle collapses, and again you'll have to build it, and again it collapses. It will be so frustrating, right? Doing it over and over and again. Doubts will be lingering unto you. Just hope that John Stones injury he will ends. This injury curse of John Stones ends, because there's so much potential. Even now, if the injury curse of John Stones ends, him suffering repetitive injuries, whenever he's come to form injury, I think still, even right from now, even if he's 26, 27, 28, still he can go on to become a world class defender. Still, he can go on to become even a legendary defender, I would say, based on the talent and all. But talent is just not enough in football, and that is why I just hope Stones recovers well, and he comes back with renewed confidence and vigor. Again, thank you so much, guys, for joining me. And if you have liked the show, please click on the like button and the bell icon and the subscribe button, so that you get notifications whenever I come up with new videos. And again, see you all, guys, and take care.